Hello, everybody. Sunday Adilaja here. And I'm today with someone that I was doing a lot of compliment to the last time she was here with me. And, uh, and I think she deserves all of them. And, it's just a huge joy for me to get to know this particular person. And I think it's a joy for you too, or it will be a joy for you to get to know her if you have not already met her. Those of us who have met her already, and those who have heard her story and who are a witness to her testimony, they will tell you that yes, this is one lady that deserves accolades and что-то у меня звук видите как deserves all the accolades and glory and praise that we could give to her. So I want to introduce right now my guest, Bisi Osundeko. Hello, my sister.
Hello, DSA.
I am fine. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you, DSA.
Will you mind, in a few words, telling us again, just in short, your story for the people who have not met you, who don't know you? And I would like to ask everybody that is watching right now to go and share the message. Share the message, share, and go and share the message with your friends, with your family members, and with anybody you can share it with in the inboxes. Share in the inboxes, share in the timeline, share to the groups, because you are definitely going to be blessed by this amazing story that God has entrusted into the hand of this lady, beautiful lady here, and that she's carrying such a weight, and it has become a testimony. So let's go ahead and listen to Bisi. Yes, my sister, just tell us your story.
Thank you very much, DSA. So, for those of you who haven't met me before, I shared my testimony, my story about my two wonderful children. And my two children have special needs. And the last time I was on the DSA Facebook Live, I shared my testimony about how myself and my husband, and so far, how we are navigating special needs parenting, how our children were both born with special needs, and our journey really through life so far, how our children have motivated us to continuously strive for success, especially when it comes to impacting the lives of other people. And because of our experience with our children, we are looking out a lot more, and we started a special needs support group to reach out to other families who have children with special needs. And this is a special needs group with a difference. It's not just like any other special needs group. This is mainly to provide emotional support to special needs families, and we've opened these up because it's free to any family, not just Nigerian. We have lots of families from the UK. So in actual fact, we have families from both Nigeria and the United Kingdom in this group. But anybody is actually welcome in terms of anybody who has a child with special needs is actually welcome. But there is something that sets this group apart. We've also added another, um, our desire really for the group. We want to see parents with children with special needs, as many of those who have passion for running a business, those who are entrepreneurial. We also want to bring in our talents or our expertise per se to be able to see how we can support or encourage such families, because my husband and I believe that being entrepreneurial really is one of the things gifts that we believe has helped us to successfully navigate these paths. Us owning our time, also having the freedom to be able to take the children for their therapy, and so those are all the things. So basically, in that group, we're not actually just giving fish. That's not actually what we are teaching people how to fish. That is what we hope we'll be doing. Sort of, we feel that the greatest gift we can give is our expertise. Is to be able to, it's not tangible, you see. It's to be able to share our expertise with other families. And so far, whilst the group is still under 1 year, the group we formed, we are already seeing that, success stories really are already coming out. There are people that we're reaching out to. We don't necessarily publicize this, but we want people to know that they're not alone, that there is support out there.
Now, I want you, if you don't mind, to take us back. When you move, sometimes you touch your. I think you have a speaker, I mean a microphone or something. It's like you touch
No,
it. You don't?
no,
Ah, okay, don't
no,
worry.
I don't. It's just the chair I'm sitting on. It's a swivel chair,
Oh,
so
okay.
it's swiveling.
No,
I'll try not to
no,
move.
no, no. Don't go ahead and go. Be free. I am swingling here myself, so it's fine. But please, can you tell us the initial shocks that believers or anybody that have challenged or disabled children face? And then I want you to go ahead and tell us also about the list of changes or challenges, things that you encounter on daily basis, and people, who are so blessed to have such children like yourself. What are the challenges that we don't even know about? Ordinary parents who are, parenting children, just normal children, that we don't even have an idea what challenges you people are facing on a daily basis. Because when people see you like this, you look so beautiful, so charming, so attractive. So look at your hairstyle, look at your smile, look at your teeth, look at your face. It's like it's like everything is like you never had a problem in your life. That's the way it looks like. Yeah. So can you try to open our eyes a little bit this way?
Thank you very much, DSA, for the question. So the first question is about the initial shock that believers are likely to face when they have, a child with special needs, right?
Yes.
So I'm going to say that from my perspective and from what I've also observed as well, you know, there is this sense of, um, there is a sense of the fact that, God, that is this as a result of something wrong we've done? I
Okay.
mean, as parents. So you sort of have this feeling that maybe there is something you've done in the past that, obviously this is a obviously this is a
Is that self
misconception.
condemnation?
Exactly, exactly. So so you start to feel this sense of maybe you're being punished for something you've done in the past,
So
and
let's say you'd had boyfriends in the past, or you've done abortion in the
Mhm.
past, or there was
Exactly,
somebody you
exactly,
jilted or who disappointed you or you disappointed.
exactly. All sorts, it can be all sorts of sin. You might even think it is a result of a a generational sin. Maybe not
Oh, all
something
right.
particularly even done by you, or maybe your great grandparents or something. Something. There is that sense of, I don't want to say confusion, and I spoke about that the last time I was here on the DSA show, that there is, like for us, there was this sense of confusion that what exactly have we done to deserve this? And we
Because
say
in
this a
your own
lot.
case, you were quite state by the time you were married, right? Like kind of
Yes,
clean girl.
yes, exactly. So I, and I think it's definitely part of the things that the Lord is trying to open our eyes to, that having a child with special needs is not dependent on your works, in terms of how good you think you may be, or even sin or anything.
Can you
You
believe
see,
it? The message I'm going to preach tonight, after our program, is going to become, it's going to be, stop provoking God with your works, with the works of your hand, with your works. So exactly the same thing you are saying, because, yeah, is it today? Yeah, I think it's today. Like we think that it is our righteousness, it's our works
yes,
that's really making
yes,
things to work out for us. Thereby, we
yes.
provoke God in that sense.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So what we don't understand is that even the word of God is already, there is an insight already in the word of God that, before we were born, God already knew us. So, but what we're not thinking about is we're not thinking of the fact that that scripture in Jeremiah also applies to children who are born disabled as well. We feel that there's some sort of theological distinct this we feel that perhaps these promises in the Bible only pertain to perfect people. So those are part of the
So
things.
there is disparity.
Exactly. We're not really acknowledging the fact that the same God who created those who do not have disability is the same God who created those who might deem less perfect, especially those who have disabilities that are visible. Remember that not all disabilities are visible. There are some disabilities that are not even visible. You don't even see them. It's only the ones that are really, really visible. Those are the ones that we tend to judge a lot. And when we're talking about the church, we're not actually talking about the building, we're talking about the body of Christ. We are the body of Christ. And so so those are the things that I personally think. I think there is this judgment that you must have done something. There is
Just
this
like just like in the situation with my friend Miles Monroe, up till
yes.
now, with people in Nigeria, even though a lot of them used to follow him and he was very popular with Nigerians, but as soon as he died like that, do you know that maybe 90% of Nigerian Christians, maybe 98, think that there is something he has done wrong, and or he has gone into error, or there is something he has certainly done wrong for God to have allowed him to die like that. And each time I write an article to defend that no, it doesn't have to be. So what about those people who die, or who bad things happen to? Does that mean that they are sinners greater than you? Even Jesus was saying it. Do you think that these people are sinners more than you people? But that is still the Christian apprehension of situations like yours.
Hmm. It is, oh, Pastor, I can tell you, DSA, that this is really common with our Nigerian Christians. Oh, this is really, really common. This is really common. And I think, it must be down to some sort of ignorance. Some of us think we know a lot. Reading the Bible from, back to back is not enough to say that we actually know enough. You understand what I'm saying? It's not actually enough. You see, I'm talking about children who were born disabled. How about people who acquire disabilities? Someone who has always been healthy and suddenly acquires a disability, maybe through injury or accidents, which is actually quite common. Apart from the fact that the person who that has happened to, being a strong believer in Christ, you'll be like, well, why me, Lord? Why me? But why not you? Why not you? Some of the things that Lord has opened my eyes to
Have
is
you
the
written,
fact that
have you, BC, have you written a book yet?
no,
Well,
well,
I'm sure
I'm
you will
thinking about
definitely write a book.
I'm actually putting together some blog articles I've written, and I probably have about 3-4 chapters, but it's sort of something that I just want to do mainly for fulfillment in life, so that my story can be documented.
You think
So
you
maybe
think
that's the reason
about
why there's
this.
no push.
I want you to think about this. Because once you made that statement, I just thought you are the most qualified person to write a book on such subject. Like you are saying, people always say, "Why me?" And this is all of us, and almost the whole world says that. But if you write a book by the title "Why me?" or "Why not me?" Why not, something like
I'm
that?
writing
Why
that down.
me? Why not me? Why me? Why not you? Why me? Why not you? Or so, something like that. It's going to be a shock to everybody's system, but it's it's going to be a curious subject. Also, everybody will be curious to say, okay. What does this person know that we don't know?
That's fantastic. That's DSA wisdom right there because I have been thinking of a title. So I have been thinking of a title, a suitable title, because along my journey, obviously, like I mentioned, there are lots of things that we're going through, and I've been thinking of the fact that how do I merge all these things together? So I am definitely working on it, but it's more of something that I feel that I would love future generations to see and things. Maybe that's the reason why I've been working on it for like years and years, and I've just not. There is, I'm just not doing it as fast as I probably should. And so, yeah, so hearing from you now, I'll definitely make sure that I prioritize it and I really, really attach a lot more seriousness to it. But I
Yes,
definitely
going
agree
back to
with
our
you that
question, have you been challenged that you or your husband have a generational situation?
yes, 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 yes. Wow. That is like opening a can of worms. And I would definitely not mention the church, but I'm sure that a lot of the viewers who already know this is quite common with, you know, I wouldn't say all churches, but many churches, many churches. And I would say that many Nigerian churches, even many Nigerian churches here in the diaspora, you would expect that a lot of us are a lot more
Civilized.
sort of like exactly, but no, we brought in culture back home. For example, um we had these I mean, I'm tempted to mention it, but I'll certainly not do, but we had this guest
But on
minister.
my platform here, we mention churches freely. And the reason we do that is that other people who might be going through the same oppression in that church will be able to
Yes.
identify and will be able to call out for help as well. So if you feel like, please, be,
So we had this guest minister who came over and he was talking about, and then it was only my daughter that was born then. My son wasn't born because my son was born 2 years after. So you can imagine during that period of time when Joy was born. So my daughter is Joy, by the way. Um, so during that
and
time
your
when she
son
was
is Joe, right?
my son is Joseph, yes, Joe for short. So during that time when Joy was born, it is now that I can say that we were in denial. At that time, we didn't know that we were in denial at all. We did not know. I would spend my day and night crying, crying, crying,
I'm praying.
crying. Yes, I'm praying. And when Joy, when Joy has to go to hospital for anything and then she has to be admitted, we won't think about the other babies. We'll be speaking in tongues and everything. It's now that I'm thinking, why were we so insensitive to the other babies? They were sleeping there. The Holy Spirit is the Judge Spirit. It's not until you shut down the whole place with your loud scabashing and praying, you know. But those were the things we believed that we were going to be able to heal her, and God was going to be able to use us. But guess what, Pastor? The Lord healed Joy through us in a way we did not expect. And it started by healing us, opening our hearts to be able to love her unconditionally.
No, but
You
what do
know,
you mean? What do you mean the Lord healed her? Healed her? People will be saying, okay, it means she doesn't have any condition. Now I understand why she could
oh,
come out here and talk
good,
because everything is okay for her
good,
now. Hey, I would
good,
too could come out if I have testimony.
good. So everything is based on perception. You know, everything is based on perception. So me saying that Joy was healed doesn't mean she doesn't have Down syndrome. In actual fact, I am a proud advocate of not just Down syndrome, but disability. This is something that I believe I'm very, very committed to. So this is not about being in denial, but that healing I'm talking about is based on perception, you see. It's based on how you see things. Joy still has features of a person with Down syndrome. Look, Down syndrome, apart from being chromosomal, which is to do with our genetic makeup, there are also physical features as well. The eyes, the crease in the palm.
Can she see? Can she see?
See?
Yes.
Yes. She can see.
Can she hear?
She can. Now, me saying she can doesn't mean she can do it 100%. It is like, just like I said, opening a can of worms. Down syndrome is the symptoms are very vast. So there is hearing impairment is part of the things. Some children, not all children with Down syndrome have severe hearing loss. Some of them have mild, some have moderate. So Joy has something called a conductive hearing loss, meaning that sometimes when she has a cold, it is worse. That's when she has like a cold or catarrh, it can be worse. When she doesn't have a cold, she will hear you better. So that's called a conductive hearing loss. So me saying that she can hear is because she still has some hearing. It doesn't mean that she cannot hear. You know, the fact that she can hear perfectly doesn't mean she cannot hear. In terms of the sight, squints are part of the symptoms as well. Also the things that accompany Down syndrome. But the thing is, it's a spectrum. Not all children who have Down syndrome experience this I would say, in totality. Some children are mildly affected. You see some children with Down syndrome who are a bit advanced. I see some children who have Down syndrome who, from birth, have very, very low muscle tone called hypotonia. Joy happened to, from when she was born, there's this lovely doctor. I can call her lovely now, but in those days, we used to think she was a witch and she was lying and putting all these negative words on our daughter, all these negative diagnoses on our daughter. But today, she is just like a miracle worker in my eyes, really, because those days when I used to cry and, in my upstairs, and when she comes to visit, she would tell my husband she wants to go upstairs to go and check on Bisi. I don't know if the NHS does this now. I don't know if the hospital system still does that now, where they home visits, so emotional support. But that was what they did then. And I'm beginning to think she just went out of her way, mainly because of the way she saw that we were constantly sad and crying and things like that. So she will come upstairs and she'll see me trying to breastfeed the child. In between breastfeeding the child, I'll be crying, there'll be tears all over the child, and she'll just come upstairs and encourage me. She'll see us reading materials scattered all over that I'm trying to read, and she will just keep encouraging me. One of the greatest things I think that she did for me is to let me see that there are 1,000, you can read that in a book, but until you experience it, you realize that, wow, so I'm not actually alone. So she invited me to a group, and that was my first support group. I ended up starting my own support group as well because I wanted to give back as well to society here. But then the first support group I attended, it was like a carnival. It was filled with all sorts of children. When I say all sorts, it's because children with Down syndrome, despite that they have some things in common, they are still unique. There are some things about my daughter that are unique to her. So I don't want people to see the label. I want them to see the individual first. You understand? So Down syndrome doesn't define her like that. When you see her, I want people to see her first as a person before they see the disability. So Down syndrome is going to be part of her. Just the way you describe her hair color, her eye color, or her height, or anything, it is part of her. We're not in denial, but she is first and foremost a human being. But as I was saying, the group, there were lots of children with Down syndrome. Some of them were walking, some of them in a wheelchair, and I said, wow, it felt like a carnival. I said, wow, so I'm certainly not alone. And I think that was the first step towards accepting that this is not actually a curse. This is not a curse, And I have to say, DSA, the progress was very slow. The progress was very, very slow. My daughter is going to be 11. So you can tell that I have been through, it's like daily growth. The process was very, very slow, just growing day by day, day by day. So I wouldn't say that we adapted straight away. It was a journey, you know. So I mentioned about, I think we were talking about the when we've been challenged.
Yeah.
And
Are you sure? Are you sure you are not under a generational curse?
yes, thank you very much, DSA. I can 100% tell you that I'm certainly not under a generational curse, because who God has blessed, no man can curse. Who God has blessed, no man can curse. It doesn't mean that those things didn't pass through my mind. I even thought, is there something that some of my grandparents who have died have done that I don't know about? Am I suffering for what they've done, or something I have done? But just like I said, it's not just me thinking about this, it's crossed my mind. Those things have been said to me before. So this pastor I'm talking about, he was put forward before us as a mighty man of God. He was going to come and minister. And then he shared this testimony about a child who listened to his musical album, which is a Christian gospel. And he said that child got healed of a condition, which he didn't say the exact condition. And one way or the other, the pastor, thinking, oh, he's trying to help us, said, oh, this family, their child is in hospital. Can you please come and see them and things like that? And my husband immediately bought the CD and came with the pastor to the hospital. And one way or the other, the pastor said he would really want to keep in touch with us to know how we're doing. Now, the phone calls that followed put me in shock. I mean, in those days, you can't speak up for what you believe or what you think is right. Now, I want to believe that as a DSA mentee, I want to believe that I'm able to speak up now. But in those days, you dare not question the authority of your pastor. And what he said to me then was that, you know, my surname, my husband's name is Osundeko. And he said to me that, you know, the Oshun, the prefix, the Oshun, it must have something to do with deities. And I said, what, really? Then he said, you need to ask your husband. Ask your husband to tell you the truth about his surname. And he was talking with so much confidence. He said, look, there are some deities they've worshipped in their family. That Oshun, you know, maybe a river or something. And he asked me where my husband is from. I said, Ijebu. Then he said, yes, I don't know why he didn't say I should ask my family. Why does it have to be my husband's family? You know, my surname, my maiden surname is Banwo. But I know historically my father, my maiden surname is Banwo, Banwo.
What does that mean?
Banwo is look after.
Okay.
But if I tell you the full name, before it was shortened to Banwo, it used to be called Fabanwo,
okay.
Ifabanwo.
Okay.
Ifabanwo, shortened to Fabanwo. So it's like saying the gods look after this child or something like that. Mm-hmm. But the reason why it was shortened anyway to Banwo is because my grandfather had to attend a Christian school. In those days, this is a story that was passed on to me by my parents. We're told that they would, those of them that have, what's the name? I'm looking, names that have deities, Oshun, Ifa, or Rumila, anything. they have to tweak their names. So why does it have to be my husband's surname that he was sort of picking on? You see? So I immediately knew that this was false doctrine and sowing the seed of confusion in not just my life or my family. Because one thing about having a child with special needs is if you lose your peace, oh boy, you will struggle. No matter the amount of external support you have, or the amount of faith you have, or even the amount of backing you have from your spiritual brothers and sisters, you yourself, if your grounding in God and your relationship with God is not solid, you'll be tossed around like a, like like a wind. Someone will come, they will say this, another person will come, they will say this. Everybody seems to want to have an opinion, So and that's not just the only time that I have experienced that. I have taken my daughter to a prayer meeting, and the woman, it happened to be a prayer meeting that we're all just meeting up and just praying. And I walked in with my daughter. My husband was also with me as well. Even though the meeting was supposed to be for only women, but my husband usually goes along with me to the prayer meetings. So as we came in, I'm laughing now, but it wasn't funny then. We actually cried about this incident. As we came in, this woman just asked us to bring our daughter Joy. And she said, as you walked in, I saw demons following that child. I saw, this is sad. This is sad. I mean, I can laugh about it now, but looking back, wow.
Just because she is sick.
Because the child has a disability. And in actual fact, a disability is not necessarily a sickness.
Okay.
You see, a disability is not necessarily a sickness. There is a disparity. There is a difference between a disability and a sickness. For example, if you see somebody who has albinism, I'm not going to say albinism is the same as Down syndrome or cerebral palsy or hydrocephalus or anything. Every disability has its own, I would say uniqueness. But albinism is one of the things, I think an example that I can basically use to describe the way someone is. So when someone is born an albino, there is no amount of prayer you can pray from morning till night. It is you that needs the healing to accept that person the way the person is. That was the reason why I mentioned healing. The healing I mentioned is not the abracadabra from heaven where Joy just got up and started walking. And we just threw away her wheelchair, just like you see on TV. All those dramatic things we see on TV, when someone comes in crutches and they just, during the prayer, they just throw it away and they just start walking. Very, very dramatic. Those were the mindset I had, that it was going to be overnight. But the healing came the other way around. God started healing us. We started loving her more. We started to show unconditional love. Unconditional love because initially, to even admit that she has Down syndrome was like a taboo. We would say that we're not allowed to speak negative into her life. So even when we go to hospital, we'll be like, we are not, our faith doesn't permit us to admit that she has this condition, and we would, and we would be arguing with the doctors. Oh, they were really patient with us. The doctors that was why I said a lot of them are our friends now. In those days, we're thinking, how can they be saying this? How can they be saying this? It was more like we thought they were the ones trying to impose these things on our daughter, But those were days when we also have been learning sign language. In the United Kingdom, there is early intervention.
So,
except if you don't
which means that as an African, you and your husband, you are conditioned. And it means your background, your African background was working against you, actually.
Yes, absolutely. Even
your religious background was working against you.
Yes. I can definitely say that. And this is the reason why I said the Lord healed Joy. So not the way anyone perceives it, that, she just doesn't have, no, she still has Down syndrome. But the healing I'm talking about, the family, we have peace. We have peace. And the joy we have is it's from within. It is not based on circumstances. Because if it is based on circumstances, you will go through many things as a parent of a child with special needs. In our case, complex special needs. It's like there are levels. So we've always been told from birth that heart is more complex, more severe. If you want your happiness to be shaped by things that happen to you daily, oh my God, you will be depressed.
Yes, and that's why I asked that question initially about the challenges that you face daily. Because, like you are the opposite of depression.
Oh, we are certainly not depressed. And I tell you that based on the number of professionals that we work with, even if you don't want to admit that you have depression, there are symptoms, you will definitely be signposted for help. If you are going through, and I think that's the reason why I said I'm grateful for the fact that during those times when I was crying and sulking, they had empathy on me, knowing fully well that I'd only just lost my mom anyway. I only just lost my mom. If you remember, I mentioned that the last time I was on the show, that I lost my mom just a month before I had my daughter. So there was certainly this feeling of isolation. There was certainly this feeling of, but from one thing to another. Should the Bible said, no, affliction will not rise a second time again, all those sort of things. So they had a lot of empathy, me. And I'm glad that they were able to distinguish between sadness. Sadness is different from depression. But coming back to the challenges, which was the second question you asked,
Yes.
there are real life challenges that families like us face. Let's be real. Me being happy and being smiley does not mean that my life is perfect. No. That's the reason why I'm very open about my daughter and my son's condition. Me being
What
open
helped you to be smiling? Because in Africa, even if you smile like that, your mom will come against you, your relatives will come against you, your church members will come against you, that you don't know what is happening. You are not serious. You are supposed to be running up and down. You are supposed to be going from one mountain to the other, from one prophet to the other. You are not serious. Why should you be smiling? Why are you looking? What is wrong with you? Have you lost your mind?
Okay. You're very correct, DSA. You're very, very correct. And I have been through all sorts of societal stigmatization from people who feel that you ought to have aborted her, and to people who think, why not give her out an adoption? Like I said, everyone wants to have an opinion. From my own close family, the initial reaction as well included, when is Joy going to be healed? When is Joseph going to be healed? Now, we now have to be educating them to say, this is long term. So the reason why we smile, my husband and I, and people actually tell us that we don't look like, I don't think they're typical parents or children with special needs, but I think it's more of a perception by society. Society expects that if you have a child with complex needs, or if you're the person that has a disability, you cannot be happy. Happiness does not mean that your life is perfect. Living a life of fulfillment and happiness is not, your life can be happy even if you have challenges. So it is mainly because we have embraced our challenges. We are very aware that this is long term. We are not comparing ourselves to anybody. We are a lot more realistic. We certainly don't go to a Nigerian church anymore. That's part of our healing. That's part of our healing process.
So one of the steps to healing is changing your environment.
Oh yes, DSA. Changing your environment. If your environment is one that reacts negatively to disability, you're constantly being signposted for deliverance, and nobody is really seeing that humanness in your child, apart from all they see as soon as you come in is an imperfect child, a disability or disability, like in the case of my son. That is a toxic environment, because one would expect that the church, not just the building, we the people, Christ, the body of Christ, one would expect that we should be the best examples of love. That is actually one of the surprises that I actually got. One would expect that as a Christian that you will experience the best, but actually judgment, a lot of judgment and discrimination lies in the church. Which is why I mentioned the last time I came on this program that I was tempted to grab the microphone one day from the pastor and talk about disability. I was tired of people saying to me that I needed to go for deliverance, or people forcing me to go out for some altar calls. So we certainly had to change our environment. Changing our environment wasn't easy at all, because everyone, I don't know, and I think this happens in the UK a lot. When people meet you, they assume you have to attend one church, one very well franchised church. And I'm certainly going to mention their name. I'm sure everyone knows them. They're everywhere. So people just assume that that's where you go to. But how the Lord, and I think my husband championed this because he knows that I like the the dancing and the meeting people, and they do a lot of, I was in a choir. I was already involved a lot, you know. But my husband said that God has been speaking to him that it's time for us to change our church. And my husband used this word integration. He said he wants us to integrate better with the society. He wants us to go to a white majority church.
Beautiful.
And honestly, that absolutely changed our lives. It changed. I mean, there is certainly no perfect church, but in terms of, these cultural things I said we brought from Africa, from Nigeria, the perception completely changed. You understand? So that really, and that was a period of time as well that I even started my business. I had peace of mind. I was worried about isolation because I suddenly moved onto a city where I didn't have many Nigerians. That was when we started living we suddenly started living in areas where there were literally no Nigerians. But that actually gave me a clear head. But not just myself, my husband. Our lives began to change dramatically. Growth began to happen. Some of the things I was afraid of at the beginning of having of my journey was, in fact, that day when I was wailing when she was born, I thought my life is over. What am I going to do? How do am I now a failure? I've come from a background. I don't know if Yoruba or other Yoruba families are also like that. A lot of people boast with their children a lot. They boast. It's like your children is part of your success story as a married person or as a person, you do that kind of a thing. So people like to boast a lot. You understand? Even testimonies in church, some of them are not just testimonies to God, like testimonies to sort of like, you say that, well, I'm better than you, things like that. So I was like, so I've become a failure. Things like that. And that was the reason why I said that the Lord had to heal us. So can you see that all those feelings we had, those were not healthy opinions of speaking down on ourselves and reducing our self-esteem just because of our child. So that was why I said the Lord healed Joy through us. The Lord healed us. Then we began to love her unconditionally. Now, my husband calls me a Down syndrome specialist because even from like age 2, as soon as I see someone from afar, I already know they have Down syndrome. I can already tell, and I'm very keen to talk to them, to interact with them. The things that I wanted to run away from are things that I kind of gravitate towards. So
but
there is no way I made.
Your second child, your son,
yes,
he is not having Down syndrome. He has another disability, right?
No, he doesn't have Down syndrome, but he was born premature.
Yeah, but
so,
being born premature is different from being born disabled.
Exactly. So being born premature, no, actually, DSA, I think there's a bit of a confusion with that. Being born premature, it can actually predispose a child to being disabled. And this doesn't happen to every child. It's random. Some disabled children don't suffer bleeding in the brain, but my son suffered the bleeding in the brain because babies are born premature. They are so fragile and so tiny. The handling process, like my case, I had an emergency cesarean section. The handling process alone can make the children prone to brain damage because the babies are still developing. They are at the stage where they're not really prepared. Their body parts are fully formed. They have hands, they have legs and all, but they're not at the stage where they are really fully ready to be out of the womb, which is the reason why it has to be in an incubator after he was born. So yes, his disability is not as complex as his sister, but we are not in denial because we're not arguing with the doctors anymore in that regard. It doesn't mean we take everything hook, line, and sinker, but I mean in terms of being in denial about the actual diagnosis. We're not. We know that he has a disability, not just because his doctor said so, but because we see that. Because when you also accept that as well, you're also able to seek help. And you're also able to find the appropriate therapies to be able to sort of like seek for your child. You know, I have heard about countless families where that child has a disability, but the family is insisting that no, their child doesn't have a disability. So I think even um, that whole process of even accepting the diagnosis, if there is one, because obviously some children don't even have a name diagnosis, is also a step in the right direction as well. So yes, my son Joseph, he is disabled, but he is not sick. Joy is disabled, but she is not sick. So I hope that people understand that being disabled is not the same as being sick. Children who are disabled can fall sick. And just like I mentioned, Joy used to go to hospital and all that when she has a catarrh or cold that she can't manage. She is able to manage better now that she's older, you know, and she's in hospital. Just the way people who are not disabled can fall sick, they can also fall sick. But what we also need to know is that people who are disabled, depending on the condition, they can be a lot more susceptible to some um, ailments, maybe due to low immunity or something. This is from my experience, So her condition is not a sickness, but it has, I think, the whole package. It has made her a lot more prone to having some certain illnesses. Like I mentioned, if you have a cold or a catarrh, for somebody else, it really might not be. It might be something your body will be able to deal with in 3 days. But for her, it's a big deal. When she was younger, we'll have to suction and all that stuff. So yeah, but I want people to know the distinction between a disability and a sickness. And I think obviously those two technologies are often interchanged. People automatically think if you're disabled, like now that my daughter is not in hospital, she's home. We don't see her as a sick person. We see her as Joy, who just happens to have Down syndrome. Joseph, he is first and foremost a child, a person, a boy, a young man. Before we see, and he doesn't even have a name diagnosis, but he was born early, born premature. So there is a distinction between which I think is probably the reason why people automatically think people who are disabled they definitely need healing.
But have you noticed that people in Africa, especially the women, are mostly sad, especially when all your two children you have are having disabilities?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
so they normally say they cannot enjoy the joy of, they cannot afford to enjoy the joy of motherhood, or they cannot afford to allow themselves to, to be rejoicing as a mother. Is that a stigma? Or
Yes.
is that just a cultural superstition, misconception that needs to be challenged, changed? Same with people who are having psychiatric challenges. It's like a taboo.
Yes.
And the relatives, either they will reject them,
yes.
or they will be overburdened.
Yes.
So do you feel any burden for Africa at all? Do you think that this your situation could lead to a way to freedom for your continent?
Absolutely, DSA. Absolutely, DSA. The day I started the group, I just finished listening to your video, and it was about this Nigerian transformational program. That was when you were talking about going to Nigeria to, so in that particular, and the thing is, that exact video, I remember that you were certainly not talking about disability, but you were talking about the suffering of people, back home, and you were actually crying in that video. And then I realized that I've always had this burden in my heart for people, for people who are in the same circumstance as myself, knowing full well that it is just, I would say that, I wouldn't say random, maybe God orchestrated it, but I really could have had my child in Nigeria. When I see families back home who have a condition like my child, like my daughter or my son, I see myself in them. I'm saying that really could have been me. I only came here to study, so that really could have been me. That really could have been me. So watching that video reignited that love for people, that passion for people. Initially, I've been postponing. I've been saying, well, God understands that even Joy and Joseph, my children, are like a ministry. Keeping them healthy, keeping them. There is this term they use for Joy, because Joy used to be very poorly. Keeping her at home and not in hospital all the time. We are now like nurses. I used to say to God, well, you've given me a lot already. My hands are full. I even run a business. My hands are full. I had all sorts of excuses. But through you, even though I don't think you knew then, God opened my eyes to the fact that what I'm going through, that experience, and the fact that He has healed me, and I want to see it as a continuous process, because learning is continuous. I want to be a lifelong learner. It is not just for me. It is for other people. It is for people back home. Because you see, Nigeria is one of the countries that, in terms of disability, we are so way behind. In terms of disability awareness, acceptance, we're so way behind. The analogy you made just now about women especially, why they feel sad. When you think about the 9 months, some of us had severe pregnancy sickness, like vomiting and all that. It's like you're laboring for 9 months. Some people just don't have sickness for first 3 months, first trimester. Some of us might even have the vomiting and all that for the whole 9 months. We've heard of women who have been hospitalized all through the 9 months pregnancy. Being pregnant is not a walk in the park. Some women can say that, yes, they are Hebrew women, and those are part of the challenges I had. I was challenging God. Why can't I should be a Hebrew woman? But let's put that aside, because that's like a vast topic. But I think the reason why mothers can be really, really sad about disabilities especially, it doesn't mean that dads are not affected too. But mothers especially, from back home, is the fact, apart from the fact that we've labored like every other woman during pregnancy, is also because of the society that we are in. Our society is backward. Oh, Jesus. DSA, when I was younger, and there's this family not too far away from us, they happen to be really, really affluent, and when there's no water, they allow other people from the community to use their tap. And when we go to their house, there's this boy who comes to open the gates. Well, he never steps out of the compound to play. Then the church I used to go to, that back then in Nigeria, there was this rumor in the church. That's why I said redemption has to start from the church. This is not even about unbelievers that maybe don't even know how to show love. This is even about believers, Christians. But they were carrying the rumor that that family, they must have used their child or something, or that child, like that. Oh God, it's a Yoruba terminology. That child has a disability. That child doesn't go out. That child is not allowed to leave the compound. I don't even think that child goes to school. They're a very, very affluent family. And they're saying it within the church that child, that the parents have used that child. They've used the child. It's a very backward thing to say, and I don't even know how to say it. You understand? So it's more like they are blaming the parents.
They have used the child to become wealthy?
Yes, because the family is very, very affluent. You can imagine. And this is me observing disability as a child, because I was probably just under 10, seeing all these things. Apart from that, again, you also have some families, maybe not all, but it is very common. They hide their children. I want to think that there is a lot of awareness going on now. I want to believe that the way the Lord has...
I don't think so, that there are a lot of awareness. I don't know how many such programs like we are running with you now run constantly on daily basis on Nigerian TV. I doubt it.
Yes.
Even in the West, it's not every day you see such a program.
Yes. Um, I think it's mainly because of the messages I have received from some families. I feel that, I mean, I've received a lot of messages, and I feel that at least people are beginning to want to talk about disabilities. People are willing, they want to engage with you. I mean, obviously, I had ignorant emails that were saying you should go to healing school, you should go to healing school at Pastor Chris, or you should go to Joshua, those sort of things. I definitely had that. When it was people who really, really need that emotional support, I had lots of women who said to me that, you know, that they would really, really want to be able to help their children. And a lot of them are concerned about the future for their child, which also ties in with the first question you asked me about the challenges we face. You see, that's why I said I see myself in them. Whilst the society is a lot more accepting here, there are still some things that is common to all of us. All of us parents who have children with special needs. We're not just thinking about now, but we are thinking about the future. Who is going to care for my child if anything happens to me? That is one of the major worries for families. Major worries. And I think, like in the West, where there is a lot of isolation, it is an issue. From back home, it's even acceptance. People tend to be a bit more closer knit, but the families, not all of them accept that person who has a child with disability. Or that child with disability. I heard about somebody who is supposed to be like a family member, not so close family member to extended. It was after he died, I heard that it was always indoors or something like that. So when my dad visited us in the UK, it was an opportunity for us to engage with him about some things because this was also something that as well that he also needed clarity about. And then he noticed a lot of difference, and he was saying something like, as soon as your daughter steps into the hospital, she's like a celebrity. The way, the joy, everything. This is not as negative as I thought. This is not even negative at all. He saw disability in a different light. It's like she's like a VIP. And the way you interact with her, is so different from how we do it back home. Then he said something to us. In fact, in the presence of our friend, a friend of ours who happened to be a professor, a white woman, and she was shocked, she was shaking. And he said, do you know that some people even kill their disabled family member
because of shame?
Yes, because of shame. Because of shame. Shame.
My God.
Shame. I was shaking. This is not even Nollywood. This is real life. And we are very, very religious. Well,
I know that in Yoruba culture and many other cultures all over Nigeria, they used to use them for sacrifice. But I would not know that it is the parents sometimes who kill them as well.
It is so, so sad. It is really, really sad. This is the reason why I said I want to hope that things are changing. I really, really want to hope, because to think that it is possible for someone to do that and not face the law, that is just a shock. And I was shaking. I remember from growing up that the images we saw of disability where you attach weirdness with it. There were these twins that are so common in Yoruba movies. The part of the film that they use these twins for, they use them as deities, like deities or like horror movie or something. And then people will just be laughing and things like that, And these things are supposed to be outdated. These things are supposed to be outdated. And you have these, when I was doing my NYC, I served in Akwa Ibom, and because I was a teacher in a secondary school. And I also saw firsthand, I'm not going to say that only exists in Akwa Ibom, maybe some other parts of Nigeria as well, but that was where I was doing my NYC. And there were some children that were tagged witches. like, and I don't want to say that maybe the child has a disability or something, but there was a particular, there is even this woman, she's an evangelist. She was even banned from the UK. Her ministry thrives on labeling children as witches. In fact, God help a child who is born into a family where around the time that child is born, maybe either dad loses his job or something doesn't work out in the dad's career, or some kind of mishap happens around the time the child was born, or around the time the child was growing up, the child is automatically blamed. That was a ministry. Trying to remember her name. She is very popular, but she's been banned from the UK now.
Victoria
There was,
Okpabo.
yes, exactly. I also participated in the campaign to making sure that she was banned. So you can imagine some of those children might not even have serious medical condition, might not even have disabilities. Maybe they just have what I would say, it might even be autism or just behavioral issue. I mean, some of those children don't. It's not even as if, let's not even give a reason for that. They don't even deserve it. Why should anybody create movies to encourage people to see children as such? It is evil. It is evil. That word love is so strange to us. We just say it. It is hard for us to really, really demonstrate the love of the Father. We just say it. There's this musician, is blind in Nigeria, Kobams, and we also happen to go to the same university.
What's his
and
name?
I think Kobams Asoko.
Okay.
Kobams Asoko. Now, and I think he is one of the success stories of people who have special needs or disabilities in Nigeria, because his family, they're a lot more enlightened and maybe affluent. I can remember that one time I must have seen him in school. He was actually getting into a taxi or something, something like that. So as you can imagine, not every family who has a blind child, can afford to send the child to university with all the support, private taxes or whatever. But there was something he shared in a particular interview that, he's completely blind. That's the way he was born. And he said he was walking along with a Christian sister who happens to be his friend. They were walking along together, and then there was a gutter. There are lots of gutters in Lagos, especially. There was this gutter. He fell into the gutter. He fell down into the gutter. I mean, for someone who is blind, I'm sure that will probably be some challenges that they face. Especially in a country like Nigeria, where infrastructure, our roads are not well adapted and things like that for people who are visually impaired. And that particular lady working with him, the Christian sister, the first thing she should have done is maybe what you would have expected GSA is that she would put her hands, reach out into the gutter and try to help Kobams up, right? That is what you would expect, right, for her to do.
What I expected is that he was not supposed to fall in the first place because she was there with him. He was supposed to give him a hand and hold him so that he will avoid the pit.
Exactly. That is the more logical way to see it, but that's not what happened. Because he fell, and obviously he was sort of like trying to find his way, confused. She started to speak in tongues over him. And he said, because obviously he's not deaf, but he's blind. And he said, hang on, you're supposed to be helping me. Like you said, you're supposed to rescue me. Or even, that shouldn't have even happened in the first place. And she was speaking in tongues over him. So I think that word love to us, we need to be able to show it. We need to live it. Show, it's not just about carrying that title on our head. We're Christians. We have to be able to exemplify it, and that's the reason why it feels as if we're a lot more happy, because we've come to a place of fulfillment and rest in Christ, because He's opened our eyes, not just our daughter and our son. We are reaching out to families who have children with special needs, not just with our expertise or with our time or with our talent. there are many families who have children with special needs that we have helped in our little way, even though it's not like we are majorly funded or anything, just within my husband and I. And we don't announce it, and we don't have to. Because as you can imagine, a society like, a country like ours, Nigeria, you can only imagine that the challenges that families like ours, families who have children with special needs face. And if you now happen to have more than one, the challenges would just be, oh wow, vast.
Well, I saw in the video that you did, some of your videos, some of your material, I saw where they were celebrating your children, and it was like a kind of company, a group of people, and a lot of parents with disabled children. But majorly, they were white parents. Is that just white organization you have?
I'm trying to remember the exact video
A lot of
because we've
mothers,
actually
a lot of mothers there, and
yes, we've actually had a lot of awards, and I want to believe that the Lord is blessing us through our children as well. I want to believe that, and I think it would surprise, even though that particular one, I'm trying to remember it, but I can't remember that particular one. But a lot of the organizations that we've worked with or partnered with, or that we've supported, volunteered with, a lot of them are white majority organizations. A lot of them are white majority organizations, and it's something that makes us worry. My husband and I always say, but where are people like us?
so I just
We won't
wonder,
see
maybe they
more
don't
people
have
like us.
black parents in the UK that have disabled children.
They certainly do. They certainly do. But I think yes, it is an ongoing thing that we are trying to sort of like that we are trying to understand, because we don't actually see a lot. We don't, and I don't know if it's because we usually live in areas that are white majority. I mean, apart from the initial place we studied and lived, but I notice when we go to support groups, and I encourage people to go for support groups, it can really help with reducing isolation and all that. People should go out, meet other families who have children with special needs. There is no reason why you should lock up that child. Let your child go out and meet people, make friends, and things like that. A lot of times when we go out for charity events, we don't meet people. I mean, I'm saying people like us, people of our color. And it makes us really, really sad.
And you said
You
they are
know,
there, right?
yes, and they are certainly there. So sometimes my husband and I usually joke that maybe they are in crusades right now. You know, that's that's something that we
Or in the
sometimes say.
houses, in isolation.
Maybe, yes, maybe, you know, because
Or
one thing I
maybe in
feel,
prayer mountains.
yes, exactly, exactly. I I have, despite everything, because we've been through a lot, such that if you're from the outside, if you know the detail of what we've been through, like when I'm saying we, the entire family, my husband, me, my son, my daughter, the surgeries my daughter have had to endure, so many things, you can tag it as suffering, but we choose to see things differently. We choose to see things in a different way. And this is the reason why at any given opportunity, we always want to give back. We always want to give back. Um, I've heard about there was a particular charity, and people still tell me till date that they still see my daughter on their posters and all that. They were basically looking for a family to volunteer. And they were basically looking for a family to volunteer. And they specifically said, they don't have any ethnic minority family, any black family. People are usually careful so that they don't offend you by even calling you ethnic minority or something or black. But that's it. Here, and they really needed a family like us to be able to, because if you showcase family like us, you are able to welcome other families into such maybe events or something. And we volunteered. We do these things for free. We volunteered, you know, and they came over. So my daughter, basically, that was like her first modeling gig. And we took her pictures, and our pictures are in some of the charity shops, and you know, I basically walked into an event one day, and this massive billboard, I saw my daughter. I was so moved. I was so moved that day, and I saw her picture, a smiley picture. They've used her picture for articles and things like that. It is nice that she's able to, you know, her smile. People always talk about her smile, which I'm happy about, because it's hopefully a sign that, despite all these complexities with all the diagnosis, she has something from her mom. You know, I want to see. There are times when I tease dad, I say, "Oh, that trait, I can see that Joy definitely got that from you." You know, I want to see your child as not just that diagnosis. See your child as your child must have picked something up as well from you as well. So yeah, especially, oh gosh, my daughter can smile, smile for the world. You know, so like we always seek for ways in which we can still be a blessing despite what we are going through.
This program, we called it the disability in the church. What are your thoughts about the church and about how to deal with these kind of situations?
When I think about disability and the church, I'm mainly thinking in the line of integration. How can we integrate adults, teenagers, children, families who have a disability? How can we better integrate them into the church? That is mainly what I'm thinking about. Because it is something that I notice in many, many churches. In many, many churches. And sadly, it's even in some white churches. Yes, I have taken my daughter and my son to events, and they basically put all the neurotypical children on one side, and well, I wouldn't say all, because they're not even many. Many families of children, especially, don't even go for church events. Well, because we always want to go anyway, and they just put them aside, you know. And those are the sort of things that you can see that there is a lot more work that needs to be done. We need to integrate families who have children with special needs, or even the children, the adults, the teenagers, into the church. We don't have to separate them and just put them on one side, and then put the so-called bright children on one side. That's not the way it should be. I always say that a disability is not contagious. You allowing your child to play, interact with a child that has a disability, even an adult that has a disability, doesn't mean that a child is going to have that disability as well. In fact, I think it's one of the best education any parents can give to their children. Let them understand that in this world, we're not all going to be the same. We're not all going to look the same. Our abilities will not be the same. So when I'm talking about the church, I'm not just talking about churches that have perfect buildings or structures. We all know that people who use wheelchairs, like my daughter uses her wheelchair for her mobility. We know that a wheelchair ramp will make life easier, so we wouldn't have to lift her into if there is a step. If there's a wheelchair ramp, it'll be easy for her to get into the church, but there's a lift. Those are structural things that can be put in place to make life easy. Bible, we can have brailles for people who are blind, people who have hearing impairments, we can have audio loops. These are things that can be done in terms of but the church is more than the building. I'm talking about the people. The way, because you see, the questions you ask, like with mothers who are feeling sad, sometimes it's not just about themselves or about the child. They are thinking about society. How are people going to judge me? I'm going to look different. I'm going to be abused. I'm going to be ridiculed. People then suddenly start feeling very vulnerable. So it's mainly with our attitude. We need to change our attitude so we can include people with disability in the church. So that, because I think we Christians, we are not supposed to paint this picture of a God that is uncaring, of a God that is detached, of a God that is judgmental.
Do you? But
Our God is not like
do
that.
you also travel? Have you been able to travel to Africa since you had these children?
Very soon. Very, very soon.
Have
In
you
fact,
ever
I think
been interviewed from Nigeria?
no, no.
Because I think that if you should go anytime you should go to Nigeria, that we've got to conduct similar interviews. I mean, you've got to be on national TV somewhere there.
Thank you, DSA. Um, a lot of the work I've done so far are mainly based in the UK. But that's the reason why we set up an online group this time. Because the initial group I used to run, the face-to-face group, the moms were moms that were based in the Northwest here in the UK. But I find that now that Facebook is a lot more popular, we have to tap into the fact that you can reach a lot more people that are not even based around you. And that is the reason why I said, after I listened to that message, the Nigerian Transformational Program message you preached, I immediately said, okay, because I sense this urgency. What exactly are we waiting for? We don't have to wait until we have everything. And I immediately went and I created a group because the Lord suddenly opened my eyes to the fact that with a Facebook group, people that are far away from me can actually be connected to me. And I'm proud to say that we have lots of Nigerian moms. It's still a very young group because we're not even actively advertising. We're not actively advertising. People probably know me a lot more for business than for so maybe that's possibly the reason why I haven't had any sort of like Nigerian interview because I'm not actively sort of like advertising or putting myself forward. But that's something I possibly need to think about because people need to know there is help out there.
How
People
can
need to know
people how
that
can
they are
people
not
get you?
alone.
Let's talk about it right now. How can people contact you? How can people find you?
So I would really love to be in touch with anybody who would like to join our group. So if you have a child with special needs, you're very welcome. Even though we also talk about entrepreneurial topics because we want to see if we can encourage moms as well to also do something, run businesses from home, simultaneously with caring for their child who is very dependent on them. However, even if you don't run a business or even if you don't have a business idea, you can join us because it's first and foremost a special needs parenting support group where we can support each other emotionally and everybody is welcomed. Everybody. I mean, irrespective of your race or background, even if you're not a Christian, you are welcome. Everybody is welcome. As long as you have a child with special needs, if you go on Facebook and you search for Joy and Joe Special Needs Parenting Group, Joy and Joe Special Needs Parenting Group, you find us. It's a closed group, so it means that it's only if you're a member of the group you can see what's going on inside. So that's for if you want to join. But if you don't have a child with special needs, so you're mainly passionate as well about issues to do with advocacy, disability advocacy, and you want to interact with us in a family, or you want to partner with us in any way, or you want to invite me over, I'm willing. Who knows? you know. Um, you can search for Joy and Joe Family. That's a public page. Anybody can access me on that page because I run the page, Joy and Joe Family. We're on Facebook. We're also on Instagram as well. And on my personal Facebook, you can add me as well. I'm sure that I still have lots of capacity for new friends. So yes, please feel free. I have a huge passion and love for families who have children with special needs. Please get in touch. And yes.
Since the last program, did you have any response at all?
Yes. Yes. Oh, I've had some really lovely response, and I think some of the great things as well is able to connect with great minds. From the through you, I'd say through the opportunity I had from the platform, I met Ufoma. It's lovely mom Ufoma. I'm not sure if you can.
Oh yeah, she's
Yeah.
she's a pillar
She's
here on the platform.
amazing. She's amazing. I love her. So she was able to connect with me, and I was connected with her. And she has also joined our group. So you see, that's the amazing thing. We actually have something in common as well. We both run businesses. So I'm very passionate about that. And I'm really, really happy I was able to meet someone like her. And I've noticed a lot more traffic, like to our Facebook page. People want to know what's going on, things like that. And I've had a lot of messages as well. So that is something very, very positive, and that is something really, really great. And I think this that we've started, even though it's a group, I'm hoping that this will grow into something bigger. Like you said, DSA, it's actually a desire in our heart that one day we can take our daughter back home, we can create outreach. My husband and I are hoping that one day we can even start a special needs school, because my husband is first and foremost an educator, even though he is now a science researcher and works at the uni. But deep down in him, he's still that teacher. He used to be a teacher, he's been an educator, and I also used to teach as well. So both of us, are hoping that one day we can start, not just one, not just two special needs schools back home.
So
So
you have
we're
the
both very young, so we
you have a
know that there
burden.
is a lot we can do.
You have a burden for Africa.
We do.
So it means that if God will provide the resources, you'll be willing to go and actually create this kind of possibility and atmosphere
Yes.
of that no stigma, disability, no stigma
Yes.
kind of movement in Africa. If
Yes.
you have all the
Yes.
money in your life, all the money in the world, will you go back to
Yes.
Africa
Yes.
and recreate the atmosphere
Absolutely.
in the UK?
Yes, absolutely yes. Absolutely yes. There is this saying that if something keeps you awake at night, you're constantly worrying about it. Perhaps that is actually your calling. I don't know how else one can define one's calling when something constantly keeps you awake at night. When you see families suffering or families going through something very negative, and it stirs up something you had, not just one, not just twice, all the time. And this has happened along our journey for myself, for my husband. We get visits to our house from families who have children with special needs, because we just, minister to them in one way or the other. So we know that there is a lot more that the Lord can do. There is a lot more that the Lord can do through us. So I am not thinking of the so many challenges that my children have been through as a disadvantage. I'm seeing it as an advantage, because in a way I can relate with everybody. I mean, with everybody who has a child with disability. Nothing is going to shock me. There is nothing you will say. There are sometimes when people say something, and maybe like in the messages they send to me, before they say, they'll say, I don't know how you feel if I say this. Like, what's the child's condition? You just be free. When they notice that I'm familiar with it, I'm like, there's nothing new. I want people to know that there's nothing new, because someone somewhere will probably be going through that.
Okay.
There is nothing.
Okay. Is barrenness a disability?
Wow, that's a very, very complex question. Oh, wow. That is a very, very complex question. I
Can
would
can
say,
can you can a barren African Nigerian woman also tap into the source that you have and still be as happy and as fulfilled as you are?
yes, absolutely. Absolutely, yes.
What you
Absolutely.
because you will tell me now that is God, but all these unhappy barren women, they are also Christians.
Yes. They're also Christians. That's true. That's true. They're also Christians. And I think that's the reason why I said it is a complex question, because it is a complex question. But just like you said, and this is DSA wisdom. I've never thought about, bringing in women who are barren into our group. But I think it's the reason why I said for everything we've been through, the Lord is trying to show us that He's preparing us for something, for some people we are going to meet along our journey. For example, my husband and I have had a stint with adoption. It is a very, very complex, deep subject, but we've had a stint with adoption because we also have a passion as well for encouraging people to adopt. Our two children are biological, but we absolutely love the idea of adoption as well. And It is adoption with the difference. We want people to be able to adopt, if they can, a child who has a disability as well. So, in actual fact, if there's some of the things that I would, some perceptions I want to change. I want to be able to open the eyes of, anyone who is barren, to think of the fact that, that child that the Lord has, the child that the Lord has planned for you doesn't necessarily have to come from your womb. The child doesn't necessarily have to come from your womb. There are many children wallowing in, in orphanages. Maybe their parents have died, or children that were even abandoned. You understand? Perhaps that is what, and you see, we have a lot of international adoptions where, white families adopting. I have met a white family who basically went to Nigeria to adopt. And some of the discussions I had with this family is, well, how about our people? We need to see more people. When I said we have a stint with adoption, there is this register they give you where you see pictures of children when you get to a certain stage. And many of the children we saw were black children. I wept. I can even say to the social worker that some of these children are calling out to me, especially the black children. Nobody's coming up for them, especially when they profile the children and they say that the children have a disability or the other. Some people even specify, I'm not going to judge them though, but some people specify that they even specifically want a child that has a clean medical history. But how about that child? How about that child who needs love? Love above every other thing. How about that child that needs love above any other thing? They are there. That's the reason why I said, the question is complex because there are solutions to it. It's not just IVF or whatever. It is complex. And it's also very sensitive as well. Very, very sensitive. And I think there's a lot of cultural stigmatization. We feel that if our blood is not flowing through the veins of that child cannot be viewed as ours. Or if that child is not perfect, that child can't be viewed as ours. Things like that. So those are some of the things that I feel that we need to see, that there are miracles everywhere. We just need to open our eyes, we need to discern. Let's take a visit to the orphanages and see these children there. They are there. They are there. They are calling out to you. Mommy, daddy, they are there. So I definitely will start thinking in this line now. We need to think as well about women who are barren.
Yeah, because the stigma over barrenness in Africa is even bigger than the stigma over disability children.
Yes, yes, yes. Oh God, our culture. I don't even understand why having children has to be some sort of trophy. I don't know why.
It's nonsense. It's absolute nonsense.
I don't know why it has to be like that.
It's actually better not to have children. You have more time for God.
Exactly. I don't know why we put ourselves under pressure. You see, having children is not a walk in the park. You see, we are not thinking about the fact that this is a huge responsibility, And there are some testimonies I have seen, and I honestly shake my head when I see them. Some women who've waited, and I hope this is not going to be controversial, but please know that this is just my opinion. It doesn't have to be general opinion. Now, there are some women who are past menopause. They are way, way older. And they just keep trying. Some of them result, many actually, result to IVF. They don't necessarily have to announce it in testimonies. My husband and I just look at ourselves. We know. But what my husband and I talk about the fact that when you think about the age of that mother, maybe she's past menopause, maybe she's 55, she's 60. If she has adopted from her late 20s or 30s, when she started TTC is trying to conceive, that child would have grown up with her. They will have done life together. We are not thinking about the fact that those children who are there also deserve love as well. We're not thinking about that. We're not thinking about that. we are constantly thinking it has to be a child from our womb. That's the reason why I said it is a very, very controversial subject, because it must be laced with cultural, things where a child has to carry your blood. It has to be cultural, because I see a lot more adoptions here in the West. And it was some of the things that challenged me when my daughter was little. I watched a woman on TV. All her children were adopted. All her children. And I kept saying to my husband that if this woman can do it, I don't even know if she's a Christian, why can't I do it? Do you know what people actually do to that woman? Adoptions are, I don't want to say funny. The parents basically bring the children and dump with her. Then she arranges the adoption process. Basically, all those children, they all have disabilities, Down syndrome, all sorts of medical conditions, especially cerebral palsy. And this woman, none of her children are biological. None of her children. There was no mention of her being a Christian. And I said to my husband and I were saying, if this is not an example of Christianly love, of Christ-like love, I cannot think of any. Children who people are giving out, somebody willing to accept
Is the woman in the UK?
Yes. This is a long time ago, you see. By now, I'm sure she must be very old now. It's a long time ago I saw the documentary, and she was praised and everything. It was all, because obviously what she's doing is not, it's not really a norm to even adopt 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's a full-time, I don't want to say job, so when you think about it, sometimes a lot of us, I think, we're driven with fear. We're thinking, how are we going to cope? How are we going to survive? That child will drain my resources, things like that. So what are we doing with all it's almost as if the scriptures that we have in the Bible, some people just memorize them just for the sake of memorizing. But when we say, because he lives, we can face the future, I personally feel that, if you embrace a child who has special needs, whether through adoption or through natural conception, there will be provision. There will be provision. And it's also part of the reasons why we have not just created a group for parents with special needs. We're also encouraging parents to start businesses as well. Because we're not going to fold our arms and say, manna will fall from heaven. No. Some of the misconceptions I even possibly must have had when my daughter was little was, for you to be able to cope as a parent of a child with special needs, you have to have destiny helpers. That destiny helper thing is a lazy statement. It's a lazy thing to say. What you need is inside of you. They often say that sometimes we mothers, even fathers, parents, you don't know what you're capable of. There was a way they said it. It's like a tea bag. You don't know what you're capable of until you're thrown into hot water or something like that. You don't necessarily know what you're capable of until you're thrown into hot water. I am the sort of person that, before I had my daughter, a movie is enough to move me. I'll watch a movie and I'll be crying, and I'll also be like, it's only a movie, come on. Stop being emotional. And some of the questions I asked God was, I don't feel I'm strong enough. Why are you giving me all these responsibilities? How am I going to cope? I'm only a mommy's girl, and even still mourning my mom. Those were the questions I was asking earlier on. So I never felt that I would be able to, survive the things that we've survived.
What about if people want to talk to you personally?
If people want to talk to me personally, I'm very, very, I'm reachable. I won't think I'm reachable.
You have Facebook?
You can search for...
You have Facebook,
yes,
right?
Yes, you can search for... I mentioned that you can search for our family page. You can send us a message on that page. If you want to connect with me directly and not just our page, sir?
Mention the page.
Family page is Joy and Joe Family. Joy and Joe Family on Facebook. Yes, and you can also search for my name, Bisi Osundeko, just as it's appeared on the program. You can search for me and you can try to connect with me. On a daily basis, I interact with families who have children with special needs. It makes me happy. It makes me happy talking to them. Some of the people that we've even supported don't even have a child with special needs. They themselves are going through something. You know, I had a lady who was going through a cancer diagnosis, and our major issue was the fact that everybody in her church, they were all stigmatizing her. Nobody even wanted to sit down beside her. And she was saying, people were saying to her that her faith is not enough, otherwise she won't be having this infirmity, or she's done something wrong, you know. So I am grateful for the fact that some of the some of the pain, I will use the word pain, some of the pain we've been through and are still going through, because my daughter has and my son, they have long-term issues. So don't think I'm all smiley because it's all over. No, a lot of ongoing issues. It's put me in
Adebisi,
a position to be able to
unfortunately, I
empathize.
don't want to stop you, but we're already almost 10 minutes late. And
Okay,
in the next 20 minutes, we have to prepare the studio to come out again.
okay.
But you are absolutely gorgeous, and I could listen to you forever. And
Thank you.
I'm thinking as I listen to you, this is the word that this is what comes from my heart, that you and your husband, you are going to be known as mother of nations,
Amen.
mother and
Amen.
father of nations.
Amen.
Nations will follow you, and
Amen.
you have nations of people that will be
Amen.
grateful to you and
Amen.
to your heart and to your kindness and to your to your efforts. Your
Amen.
best days are still ahead of you, my dear.
Amen.
Thank you for coming out to join us, and
Thank
thank
you.
you for reaching out to help other people.
Thank you so much, DSA. It's my
Love
pleasure.
and
Thank
greetings to
you.
your husband and to the kids.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful evening. Blessings.
You too, sir.
Bye.
Bye.